Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today I'm back to work over here on this base that I'm making for my Crescent Band Saw you see back behind me. We started on this last weekend, had my nephew down here that was helping me out, and we finished up the project for the day because I was waiting on some parts to come in to finish it. The parts have come in. So now we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up and hopefully get this part done so that we can get this bandsaw off of that pallet and onto a proper stand that we can mount a motor on and get it operational. I'm going to zoom you in here and kind of show you what we got, show you what we're going to be working on today, and we're going to get it knocked out. So as I had mentioned before, one of the things that I'm trying to do with this particular base is integrate into it a motor mount because this bandsaw, when it was built, was a line shaft driven machine. It didn't have a way to mount a motor to it. And while I could make a motor mount that I mount to the machine itself, I decided I would make a base and then incorporate the motor mount into the base rather than trying to attach it directly to the machine. What I've got here, this is actually an adjustable motor mount. I bought this from McMaster-Carr. This is just something you can get. They make them for different frame motors. I looked up the motor frame that I have that I'm going to put on here. I believe it was, what is this, a 184 frame, which basically this is the 4 holes that the motor just bolts right down onto. What's nice about this base is there's a screw back here in the back that when you turn it, it adjusts it in and out. And what that does is allow you to put the proper tension on the belt so that you can adjust it on the fly, make it fit. You've got a nice long adjustment in there. Now, what I'm going to do is when we built this frame, I put this extension on the back, and this again was to mount the motor on. I've got some cross rails that we're going to weld to the top of this that the frame will then sit onto. And I'm going to go to the milling machine and actually cut some slots in this as well. And that will allow me to be able to adjust the whole motor left and right so that I can get my belts to line up perfectly right. I don't have to worry about getting it right the first time. When the machine and everything else is in different places, I can just get it on here and I can adjust this thing left to right, bolt it down, put my motor on here, tighten it up. So that's the game plan. I've already got my slats cut to length. I laid my motor mount up on here and I marked the extents on each side of where I want that slot to start and stop to give me the maximum amount of adjustment left and right. And with that, we're going over to the milling machine. We're going to set it up. We're going to put a 1/2 inch slot in here. I've got some 1/2 inch carriage bolts. 1/2 inch is what matches these holes right here in my motor mount. The carriage bolt has the little square head on the bottom there, so that will allow that to come up into that slot, and that way, instead of just putting a regular bolt in there, when it's got a little bit of tension on it, it won't allow this bolt to turn. That carriage head down there will catch in that slot and keep it from turning loose. You don't have to have a wrench up underneath the bottom of this thing to tighten and loosen and adjust those bolts. So let's go to the milling machine and get some slots cut. Got a 1/2 inch end mill in here, and I've got it centered up on my vise. This should be a self-centering, self-drilling, or center drilling end mill. So I'm just going to plunge down through the material and then cut that slot. And I just put some marks on here. I'm not really too worried about having exact precision links on these. They're going to be within 1/8 of an inch, so it's not going to matter. Let me get a faster speed here. All right, we're going to just raise the table up into that end mill, and hopefully it's going to, yeah, it's cutting all the way down through there. All right, we are through, and now I'll just bring it right on down. All right. Make sure that carriage bolt's going to fit in there, and it needs to be widened out just a little bit. So I'm just going to bring the table to me a little bit, and we'll Just widen that slot out just a little bit. And that fits just fine. All right, we will come over here and do the other side now. I'm going to go ahead and just drop my table down, and what we'll do is we'll just slide the part down in the vise and leave it where everything's lined up the same. Got a parallel back here on the back. So same thing. I went ahead and widened that slot out like before, and that carriage bolt fits just fine. All right, we'll do the same thing on the other side. For the other side, I'll do that one off camera. We got our slots cut. I'm just going to take a deburring tool here. We'll deburr these, getting sharp edges off of them. I'm going to go ahead and bolt this on here. All right, by just bolting those in place, even if it's just finger tight, I've now got my alignment just right, and I can go ahead and weld these cross pieces in place. I do want to make sure I'm running square, so we'll just work off the end of the table here. And I'm going to get my welder out. We'll weld those in place. I'm going to loosen these up just a little bit. And we got a nice range of movement there to get that motor lined up with the pulley on the machine. So I think we're good to go. I'm going to actually just take this motor mount off for right now. I've still got a few more things we need to do, and then I'm going to need to paint the whole base, and I don't want to paint the motor mount, so we'll just go ahead and take it on off. I've got my bandsaw picked up with the gantry crane. I'm going to drop it down onto the little tray here, the base. Let's see. There we go. My plan here is that I'm going to have these leveling feet sitting up underneath the four corners where these holes are. These will come up through that cross piece we put in the base, and we'll weld a nut on there, and that will allow us to just kind of clamp it all in place. Now I've got some extra large transfer punches over here. These are different size diameters. I'm just going to drop one down into that hole and get it in there. And we'll do that in all four corners, and that will give me a hole that will line up with these holes once we get them drilled out. Now to drill those holes, I'm over here at my radial drill, and we're going to get it in position to drill these holes out. Lower my head down. And we got our speed set here. And we'll just come down and hit that hole that we centered punched. Started with a 5/16 inch hole, which is basically half the diameter. We're going to put a 5/8 inch hole in there now. I'll swap out my drills. My chart over here says 5/8 holding steel, 489 RPMs. And I can go right here, that's 505, that's real close to it. One down. And we will just swing our head around here to get over the new hole. There we go. I'll flip the part around and do the other two on the other side. Got my holes drilled. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to weld some nuts in here, and this will be for the leveling feet to screw up through. This is a 5/8 inch threaded rod coming up through here. This will actually screw it through this bolt on the bottom. That will be what moves it up and down, and then we'll use another bolt on the top to kind of sandwich it all together. So I've got these set up with I'm using just a square head bolt again, like we did on the sides, and we're just going to weld these in place. Main reason I'm using these square head bolts, guys, is my Regular hardware is zinc plated. It's the silver stuff. This is just raw steel. And when you weld this zinc, it creates a gas that can cause some health issues. And so I prefer not doing that. I could have ordered some just non-plated nuts, but I have these square ones and they are still not plated. So that's the main reason I'm putting those in place. So I'm going to go ahead and weld those in place, and I think we'll be pretty much done with this other than putting paint on it. All right, I'm gonna get the other side set up, weld those in place. I'll do that off camera. And just like that, I think we've got this piece finished and ready to be painted and put on the machine. So as you can see, I've got the leveling feet in the corners now, and I can easily adjust those. There's a place you can put a wrench on the bottom. Jack these up and down, get your machine level. The idea here again, we'll drop the machine down there. There's the 4 holes in the base of the machine. They should come up through here, and we can put a nut on the top of that, sandwich it all down, clamp it in place, lock that leveling foot in place, and securely attach the bandsaw to the base. And additionally, we'll have the set screws on the side and these little screw holes that we can also clamp in to keep it from wiggling around inside the base. But with that, I think we're done. So there you go. It's as easy as that. I just kind of had this in my mind how I wanted to build it. Came over here, got the measurements off the machine, and built it on up. I think this is going to work just perfect. So big thanks again to my nephew, Ren Harden, who came in over the last weekend and helped me do some welding on this. I was able to get it finished up today. I will go ahead and get this thing painted, ready to go on the machine, and we'll show it in a future video. I'll mount it up over on the machine and get the motor and all that hooked up on it as well. But for today, that's going to be it, guys. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and those comments and thumbs up are appreciated as well. And we'll catch you on the next video.